July 17 to October 17 has again been a very positive quarter. One of the key things I wanted to highlight to the Council, a few months ago we talked about our the spend, or the visitor spend, that is accrued to the Ashburton district by MB. And we understood that there was an $18 million error in that data. Thankfully, and courtesy of Audit New Zealand, when they were going through our audits, they said, well, this is quite bizarre that somebody like MB would actually make an error of such a large sum. So they audited it, and they actually found that it was absolutely correct what they've been auditing. So we are absolutely correct at $171 million in terms of tourism spend that comes into the district. The concerning area, what was called Rest of Asia. And so Rest of Asia, we've actually seen since 2009 jump by around about 3 to 4 million every single year. So this is Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, and those types of places that sit outside China. So all up in 2017, we made an additional $18 million on this. So pretty happy with that. So what it also means is that we're not sort of having to put a caveat around any of the numbers that we've been talking about in the past. So we've been talking about $156 million, which is untidy, and $171 million is forecasted. So that's to the end of July. The second one I wanted to talk about is our website refresh. So we have completed that. It's taken some time to do so. Some really key things that we have done there is to ensure that the website is now mobile responsive, and this is critical to tourism in this country alone. When people are driving down the road, they want to be able to see the information at a whim whilst they're driving, and be able to be in contact with people as they go. So we've designed this website platform from the smallest device to the largest device. In fact, if you look at it on a very large screen, it looks sort of quite spacious and quite centered, but it's designed for the mobile phone. So along with that, what we've done is also integrated Google Maps. So at the touch of a button, somebody that's perhaps on their way to the Ashburton district can simply bring up any one of the pages that are on the site, and they can click on directions, and it automatically pops up into Google Maps, identifies where they are in the car, and takes them straight to the door. And so it's a very powerful tool, and it just means that we can also have a lot more, do a lot more with that as well. Domestic marketing, we've done a huge amount of domestic marketing in the last couple of months, more so with the inaugural New Zealand Experience Expo. This is, as said, it's inaugural, so how this has sort of come to play is that Tourism New Zealand hasn't had a mandate of only marketing to the international markets or the outbound markets, so places like China, America, Europe, and there's nobody been here that's actually done anything internally in the domestic market. And as we know, the domestic market is huge. So this has been an opportunity for ourselves, along with our strategic partners, to be able to get involved a little bit more at a domestic level, and it's fantastic. We also attended Convene South. Convene South is held in Christchurch every year, and whilst it was certainly a poorer attendance that we've seen in the past, and we'll evaluate whether or not we attend again, but this is an opportunity to be able to expose places like our conference facilities around the district, and we get buy-in from a lot of different people, and the people that or the buyers, should I say, weren't evident on the day, but we've got a lot to follow up on. We've got about 60 odd different contacts that we can follow up on. So that'll be good, and we'll get some really good numbers out of that. International marketing, we're coming, just started our plan again for Trends, which will take place in May in Dunedin, which is fantastic. So it's actually going to assure that we have some smaller costs when we're attending Trends. We also attended a new event called Reconnect with Christchurch. And this is about bringing inbound tour operators. These are people that actually live in and trade in New Zealand, or should I say live in New Zealand, but they trade offshore. and they, 40 of them visited Christchurch and Canterbury in late September, and we had the opportunity to be able to take 10 of those people around on what we call a familiarisation of Mid Canterbury. So we took them out jet boating, took them out onto a farm stay, took them up in a hot air balloon, all the things that people are wanting to see and do in our fantastic district. We were able to organise that for them. So got them up at 4 o'clock in the morning and off we went, and so it was a very big day, and we've had some really great feedback from it. And to the point on Tuesday I'm meeting one of the Indian inbound tour operators who are based in Darfield, but as I said, they all their market is inbound from India, which is a very strong market right now. So we'll be meeting with them next week to try and sign up some better deals to make sure that we are getting people to stop in the district. I did have on your report a couple of additional images for you of that particular event. So as one of the team members on that for Mill was going around, she was actually taking photos of that. Now, they were quite large images, and that's why they're not on your report. Taking photos and actually posting these direct into China and India. And that's literally on the second as she's in the coach. So that's the sort of thing that we want to see around this area in terms of that inbound tourism operation, and it really gets a really good effect. Finally, in the international markets, one of our strategic partners, Christchurch Airport, invited us to the Flight Centre World Expos, which were in Brisbane, Melbourne and Perth. They paid $30,000 for us to be there, and all we had to pay for was our flights. So again, you know, it's companies like Christchurch Airport that are really supporting tourism in this area, and I'm very thankful of that because we wouldn't be able to afford to do it. So Brisbane happened weekend before last, 8,000 people through the Flight Centre's doors, and we had exposure of almost all of those people. How we can recognise that as well is through the people that have passed through our booth, but we also have quite a number of marketing collateral that we have available. So our Experience Mid Canterbury OPG, we ran out of those by 11 o'clock. We're restricted by freight in terms of being able to do that. So, you know, we know that was a fantastic effort. Last weekend was Melbourne, slightly busier. There was 13,000 people there over a 2-day period. And again, we took extra brochures and paid extra freight, and we ran out very quickly. So, you know, that's telling us already, you know, just in the last 2 weekends, we've got over 600 of our EMC brochures that are actually in the Australian market now. We wouldn't be able to do that without the support of Christchurch Airport. And this weekend we're in Perth, so hopefully that's going to be of the same sort of colour.
Excuse me, Bruce, just before we move on to any further items, the international market, earlier in today's agenda, myself and Councillor Bell gave some additional information to the councillors about the GMA News TV.
Yes.
Wondering if you could perhaps fill in the council on what's happening with the Filipino market and what potential is there.
Yes, indeed. So the Filipino market is actually a very big emerging market. We're already seeing quite a number of people that have come from the Philippines, and certainly in the last 18 months. Some for residential purposes and working purposes, but we're seeing an awful lot of people from the Philippines and the surrounding areas that are coming through and actually physically visiting specifics in the South Island to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm really encouraged by the Philippines market, to be very honest with you.
Great, thank you.
So you would have also seen on our report as well, we've completed the audit for 2016-17, and we had a full and clear audit, which I'm extremely pleased with, because of course we work incredibly hard throughout the year to make sure that we've got everything in line, so that we don't have any challenges when it comes to audit. And it's been fantastic. So yeah, I've sort of got a big thanks to the team on that one. Finally, wanted to talk about the eyesight change proposal, which I'm sure everybody is fully aware of that. So
just before we do I see that you have a board member or two in
yes,
the room? Would you like to come forward and introduce yourselves and join us at the table as well?
Thank you.
And we have around the table here 7 first-term councillors and a first-term mayor, so please introduce yourselves and then we'll get into it.
My name is Sally Rhodes. We have a motel complex here in Ashburton. Have been involved in tourism since, let's just say, more than 30 years. Have worked on another tourism board in another area for quite some time, and very happy to be serving my second term with Experience Mid Canterbury.
Good afternoon, my name's Gary Lee. I'm a relative newbie on the board, been here in Ashburton for 2.5 years, had 6 years on the board of Tourism West Coast, and we've just moved to Central Ashburton 2.5 years ago.
Thank you very much.
As you would have heard, I guess, through the various media outlets and the likes of, that we have moved forward with the eyesight closure with Ashburton, which took effect yesterday, 25th. It hasn't been without its challenges, I must say. Effectively, as of yesterday, we have a couple of people redundant, it's been an incredibly challenging situation. Now I understand that there has been a bit of a public display today, which I wasn't involved in. Unfortunately, I was in meetings in Moffatt, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So I did attend the rally today, as did Councillor Brown, Alice and Price. I, at rough estimates, would say about 300, is that roughly where we're going? And there were some views expressed, but I'll perhaps open the floor to questions or to comments. Councillors, the floor is yours. Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Question for you, Bruce, I suppose. It's just looking at your program you've been doing in domestic marketing. You've been to Auckland to promote Mid Canterbury, and which is great. There's been positive inquiries. And going through the report, you attended the Convene South in Christchurch, promoting events and what have you again, and under international marketing. You say this was another very successful event. Now, have we got any figures around how many, because of what the marketing you've been doing, how many people visited and holidayed here in Mid Canterbury with good numbers?
Over that specific period?
Or over any period?
So the only numbers that we were, sorry, Karen.
Oh, so that's so I can measure success with numbers?
Yes.
Yeah, trying to get my head around that.
Look, I'd love to have something like a ticker board on the Rakaia River and bridge and the Rangitata Bridge to be able to tell us what was going on. The reality is there is no measurement in New Zealand that tells us actually physically how many people are coming into each of the districts around New Zealand. What we do have is the tourism spend number, and we also have another set of statistics called the CAM results, or the Commercial Accommodator Monitor. But there are some really big challenges inside that particular set of results, that it only gets reported by hotels and motels, and during the, I think it's a 2-week period, so we'll know more about that because she does those for us every month, sorry. But it doesn't include things like Airbnb, backpackers, hostels, holiday parks, Airbnb, farm stays. So there's a huge amount of content that's missing out of those. So if we get a reasonable number, and we just sit with those, to be very honest. But our main statistic that we have is the spend, or tourism spend, that we get from MB every month.
So if you didn't go or didn't promote one of these things, would we see a spend drop?
You would absolutely see a spend drop, yes.
I love it.
I was just going to ask, is it possible to get these numbers from camping grounds and that? Because I look at this 170 mil that's supposed to be spent in Mid Canterbury. I can't see where the money is going in this town, and I look at most of the farms, you know, it's a credit card club, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most of our farms around us, I know the dairy farms all around me are owned by out-of-district people or corporations. So all their bills, everything to do with the dairy farms is going through those credit cards which are owned out of this town. So how do we get that out of the equation to come back to the actual tourist spend? Because to me, this is quite an inaccurate figure. To say 171 mil spent here, and in fact it's a lot less.
Well, I guess I challenge that because it's the only measure that the New Zealand government and tourism in New Zealand has. So the only place you could go to and find where those numbers are from is to tourism or to MB. MB drive them, MB report them every month. I don't know if there's an opportunity to be able to sit down with MB and spill out all of the data. They get it from a company called Market Pay. They pay something like around about $1 million a year just to be able to get that data. So it has to be pretty accurate. It's broken down in 6 spaces, which I talked about a couple of council meetings ago, and it has a spread right across the entire district. That said, it doesn't answer, you know, if you've got people that are living here but are spending using a card that is issued outside either the country or issued within 100 kilometres of this area, then it is going to be included in some way or form, depending on what they're purchasing. Yeah. But unfortunately, you know, New Zealand, or tourism in New Zealand is our largest export industry, you know, right now, and we have terrible statistics, and that's something that the government needs to resolve.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the controversy regarding controversy regarding the eyesight, have you had approaches by business in Ashburton willing to pay extra to keep the eyesight open?
None at all.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and thank you for coming here today. I'm just looking at your media release from yesterday, and in it there's an alternative information service will be housed at the Ashburton Library. Have we talked to them about that, and how are we going to let people know that it's there? And you must have some frequently asked questions, I suppose, of people who call in. Are they going to be trained at the library to answer those questions, or is there just going to be a stand there where people can pick up a brochure or a map or whatever, and that's where they get directed? Because I can't see the point in saying you can get information from the library if it's only off a stand. I think we need a human face behind that information that can smile at people, greet them, and give them some of that frequently asked questions.
Absolutely. So in my discussions with Jill Watson a number of weeks ago, when we sort of said, look, you know, is there an opportunity to display some brochures there, which is currently in place, she said it's quite amazing the amount of people that they actually get asking some of the local questions that you would expect them to go down to, say, somewhere like the eyesight. So virtually they're already doing it. They're very clued up people over there, and they've done very, very well. The only brochures that we have in there is our local district operators. So that's you know, hotels, motels, and activities that are available here. Plus the what we call the OBG, which is the official visitors guide. And there are a few brochures just for Canterbury wide that are very self-explanatory. But as I said before, the team over in the library have been getting questions for a very long time, according to Jill.
Thank you. And supplementary, so the people who have brochures in there will still be paying a fee for that service, and will that fee go to Experience Mid Canterbury, or will the library recoup some of that money, because they may need an increase in maybe half a staff member or something if they're dealing with some extra foot traffic through the door?
Currently that's not a conversation we've had, but I'm completely open to that. Yes, they get charged $175 a year to display with us. We have about 10 all up, and more than happy to look at that if we need to split costs or whatever. That's completely acceptable.
And supplementary to that, I suppose the next challenge is letting people know that that's where they need to go to get that information, local people as well as that incoming traffic.
Yes, and that's correct. So we've actually just ordered a couple of what we call teardrop banners that will have information on it that we can put outside the library. I've also been speaking with House of Travel as well around whether or not they would require any further support from us in terms of signage and that sort of thing. They don't, but we'll just keep an eye on that one.
And sorry, Bruce, just for everyone's benefit, House of Travel you were talking about because they're doing the bus tickets.
That's correct, yes. So, interesting enough, House of Travel have been a holder of Intercity, Atomic Shuttle. They've also got Transrail, or Kiwi Rail, sorry, Transrail, and also that of Blue Bridge and Inter-Islander. They've been selling those for quite a long time, unbeknown to us. So, of course, it's been quite a natural process for them to be able to pick up that particular piece of work.
Councillor Reveley.
Yeah, another question we asked through you, Madam Mayor. Will the EMC website have directions to go to these places, the libraries, and they'll all have that? They're not there at the moment, are they?
Because we've only just agreed to the library one, that's the only one that's not there. So on our new EMC website we have the Moffatt eyesight contacts, we have a House of Travel contact, and we'll also have the library on there as well for information.
Councillor Price? No. Councillor Lovett?
I was just going to ask, Mayor,
Sorry, can I just get your count?
the community house, has it been kind of involved with this, involved with the information centre, because I know they have a local directory of all the organisations and all the local stuff, and can you guys sort of work with them with this to get this, with the library together? So, because I know a lot of people go into the eyesight for local information, especially for newcomers to the district, whether that can be kept updated and shared between several different premises around town and on your website for people to go there. And supplementary to that, I was out this morning, all the scrapbooks and photo albums sitting down there at the eyesight, can they be given to the museum instead of being thrown out? So keeping, because they know some of the original stuff had been tossed and it went from information to eyesight, and they kind of want that protected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We haven't cleared anything out at all actually. We just cleared a bit of space. But look, anything like that that is of a relic, we'd definitely give that to the library. So the other point you made about the community house, I spoke with them all months ago with regards to what that might look like, and also what opportunities there would be in terms of having multiple information areas. So the library is just one. We've also been approached by Somerset Cafe, who also would like to display some of our brochures. And because they also, at a natural level, when people are ordering coffee, they go, where's this or where's that, or I'm going here, or whatever. And so, speaking with Mark, and I've got another meeting with him tomorrow, we're just going to identify an area within Somerset Grocer, and we'll put some brochures in there as well. And key to that is then my team will then be going around each of these places, just like we do in Reclire right now, every week, and we replace anything that looks drabby, but at the same time we make sure that all the stock is up to date and so we still have a key relationship in all of these to make sure that the distribution is going where it is.
We used to have an Ashburton book, a directory. Can that be updated and can we give another one reinstated so that it can be given out to the new immigrants and people requiring information on Ashburton, even if there is a small cost to it?
I don't see why not. Yes, there probably would be a small cost to it. The only brochure that we have is the what we call the visitor's guide, which has a lot of content in there around the general district, but also it has a number of other visitor spots around as well. In terms of a directory, in terms of where to find things like, you know, I'm just thinking out of the blue, sort of, you know, some of the community house things. I don't think there's much in there of that, but there's no reason why we couldn't put those sorts of things on our website, which is cost neutral.
Councillor Rawlinson, and your lights not on.
Thank you, Bruce, for your reporting. A lot of my questions have been answered around the room, but as far as directing people from the eyesight to the library, are you going to have something fairly prominent there that if a backpacker rolls up to the door, they know exactly where to go?
Answer yes. We've had a sign on the door to the library because they have Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi actually, on there for a very, very long time. But we're just getting a new sign that's going to be done that'll be on the 2 windows, and there'll also be another one on the front door, so when people do see that, they'll know exactly where to go.
Supplementary to that, regarding informing people that this change is occurring, have you thought about perhaps doing some radio advertisements to, especially the locals who do go and buy their tickets, the ones who don't use Wi-Fi and cell phones, and there's a lot of them, just to have something out there in the public media where they listen and hear it, so they do know that there is an alternative now? I'd like to think that something like that would happen.
Again, really happy. I mean, we've through this process until yesterday, it's been, you know, quite challenging because we haven't been able to talk about a lot of things because it's been an employment matter, so we will be able to start talking more about where, when, how in some of the places. And look, I'd love to, you know, get in touch with Hoops for an example and start talking to him about what we can do on a perhaps even a semi-formal basis that we can sort of give people a lot of information around what's going on.
If they get informed, they should have it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And look, I'd have to say, other than you know, a small space in the last couple of weeks where we've been sort of, we haven't been able to talk about anything because we haven't had anything to physically talk about. Up until yesterday, you know, we've sort of been dripping people information about to say, well, this is where you can go, this is how you can do it. And we've had signs on the door as well to make sure that it's
Councillor McMillan, I've just turned your light off, sorry, but just as you speak, perhaps you'd also like to inform Councillor Love of what Moffatt do as well in regards to welcoming new people.
Thank you. Yes, Moffatt have a welcome to Moffatt pack, which has been around for quite a few years. Lions put some money forward to make a little folder, and we, the volunteers have just put the information in, and that's readily available to anyone that comes into the eyesight. My question through the chair was, Moffatt eyesight's been restructured. How's that going to be in the future? And before I do that, I've just had a look at the website on my phone, and it's very easy to use. And it looks good.
Thank you very much. Spent a lot of time on it. So the restructure in Moffatt is essentially, it is operational, fully operational, and it has been the whole way through this process. There has been a couple of slight changes with staffing because there was only one eyesight out of this whole process. The eyesight manager has been made redundant. That is the only change there. And we also had a full-timer that decided, which is actually about to go into maternity leave, so she resigned as well. So we have a new full-time staff member and 2 part-time members that have been with us for quite some time. But other than that, it's same hours largely. We did have a look at our weekend hours, certainly in the summertime, and just revise those a little bit. But other than that, that's all we changed.
Thanks. Bruce, technology's advanced over the years, and I know around this table we've talked about touch screens to order stuff like bus tickets or tickets and whatever. You've now got a spot at the library which has free internet. Has any thought gone into one of those screen type devices that people can go in there and do that on their own as long as they're savvy enough to work?
The answer is yes. We went down the track to have a look at an embedded large screen. There's a company in Christchurch that we were in contact with that do a lot of that sort of thing. The quote came back and somewhere in the vicinity, I think it was $35,000 to do it, because they had to pipe it all out and cable it and everything like that, which I thought was quite excessive. We've since found another operator that may be able to do something, but we're still working with them on that. You're quite right as to whether or not they're actually going to be able to operate it, because you have to have the individual eyesights, which are called individual websites, which are all different, to be able to do that. So if it was just, say, one ticketing purpose, let's say like, Canterbury Rugby, for an example, they have a portal that's very easy. They sort of just push an up and down arrow for the number of tickets. You hit a button that says payments, and you swipe your card, and that's done. The challenge that you have with having multiple sites is being able to have that whole integration, and each time you add another operator into it, it becomes more and more expensive. So the answer to you is yes, we could certainly go down that track, but it would be quite a massive cost.
Supplementary, whenever something's new, it's expensive, but as time goes on, it gets better and generally cheaper. So I probably would to keep it on the radar. Yes. It's probably the way of the future.
Interesting enough, we had a couple of people come and see us about 18 months ago that wanted to actually put a device outside the current eyesight. And they just thought they were going to be able to plumb into us and everything like that. So we know that they're there. These particular people just couldn't deliver what we needed, they weren't doing it sensibly. But so we know it's out there. We've had a couple of quotes just to see what it's like, and we will certainly keep it on the radar.
Councillor Bell.
My question to you, Bruce, is that since you've announced the closure of eyesight, have you spoken to the House of Travel? Has the bookings increased or has declined or any changes at all?
According to House of Travel's manager there, yes, they have had a slight increase, but not more than they were actually expecting. On average, we were seeing anywhere between 7 and 12 bookings. Of course, it gets busier on Fridays or on weekends, and it's quite busy over the school holidays. But that's about the average, of between 7 and 12 bookings a day on Intercity. That hasn't changed as far as they're aware. But they have certainly seen more people coming in as a result of us.
Councillor Malcolm.
Yes, Councillor McMillan touched on the subject of welcoming pack in Moffatt. Selwyn District Council seem to have a welcome pack to all new residents. Okay, so, yeah.
That sounds like an item we could put on our next round of consultation for long-term planning.
Through the chair, there is a welcome. There is a welcoming pack. It's actually issued by the Newcomers Network under Safer Ashburton.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and this is probably more a comment for maybe our staff, but I think the same thing we're going to have to be aware of with an information centre at the library is parking as people turn that corner with camper vans and things. It's not a very nice intersection, and I think it's just something we may need to keep an eye on, because on the state highway right there, there's nowhere to park, and it could become a little issue if that momentum picks up on that, and I think it's something we'll need to keep an eye on ourselves. So.
Councillor Lovett.
The question I was going to ask you, was there ever figures kept on people that came through the door at the eyesight? Were they tourists or local people wanting local information?
Yes, door numbers and all of the nationalities that purchased something was recorded and delivered to the board every month. So we've got all of that data. That's some of the data that we actually used to understand what we needed to do, and also which eyesight we would consider closing, if any. The door numbers literally crashed over the last year, and I'm sure our board members will be able to tell you. It hasn't been something that's sort of crept up over the last couple of months. It's been ongoing for a long time. So they see all the financials, and our financials are also split in zero between the two eyesights, and so they can see absolutely everything in terms of what works, what doesn't. So if we look at the $36,000 in last year's deficit of the eyesights, I can't remember exactly, it's about $18,000 of that actually was attributed to Ashburton. And I'm happy to share that with you.
Yeah, and the numbers between local and tourists, were they about even, or?
I'd have to have a look at the most recent ones, but yeah, they were about equal.
Excuse me, Bruce, did you say 80,000?
18.
18, okay, thank you. Just a couple of questions from me. You did consult about whether the public had feedback on closing the eyesights. You received a petition for Moffatt, which had about 500 signatures. Is that
525, that's right.
525. And we received a petition for Ashburton, which had 1,002. Of the number of people who consulted, how many responses did you get? Not the petitions, but the communications. Did you get any? You got no responses at all?
Nothing at all. And this is, I guess this is the interesting part about today's event, for an example. Nobody there has ever bothered to approach any of us in terms of, how can we help? Can we help fund? Can we perhaps, do something that's going to be able to support the eyesight? Nothing at all.
Well, can I share with you, I did attend today, as did the councillors I mentioned earlier, and there was a Act Now Reopen the Eyesight card handed out with a call to action to email the Mayor. I've just checked my emails, I have had one. So about 300 people in one. So councillors, if there are any further questions or any suggestions? No? I'll invite the board members if you'd like to react anything.
Firstly, apologies from James out. I suppose from a board perspective, we can only go by what we are given, the information we are given, and we can only work on that. And as you can see from today, that's how we came to our results. So that's where the board sits. But always we're open to the information. I attended the Moffatt. We had a great discussion up in
Sorry. Thank you.
We had a great discussion up in Moffatt with the locals and staff and everyone, and it was pretty obvious that the Moffatt one in some way should be retained. So that's where my side of the board sits. We can only work on what we do.
There's just a couple of things to note about the way that tourism has changed dramatically over the last perhaps 3 to 4 years, and that's the way that people are actually booking activities and accommodation. So firstly, the figures that you see, the annual spend, they do not include any B&B numbers or any bookings that are made online prior to these people coming. So that's in my opinion, that's a very understated figure. Secondly, let's not underestimate the work that some of our business partners do out there. I.e., I know for a fact that every single person who comes to stay at our motel, their first question is, okay, where can I eat? And then the next thing is, what can I do when I'm here? So you have a lot of ambassadors out on the ground who are really spreading the word. Now these people may have booked overseas, so there's no thought of them even in the first place going to an information centre. They just know they can rock on up and ask wherever they're staying, from a B&B to a motel to a hotel. They just trust that we will be able to give them the information.
And just one thing I heard at today's rally was, and in fact Gary, you may be well placed to answer this, is people coming to our town, fresh to our town or thinking of moving to our town, having somewhere to go. And then the other one I heard was when you go travelling overseas, you go to an eyesight. Wondering what your response is to those two situations.
Sure. I suppose from my background in retail and on the board at Tourism West Coast, we have run through the same issues. Obviously the West Coast is a big lump of an area to look after, from a tourism point of view. It is one of the main tourism destinations in the South Island, if not New Zealand. So getting information to people was reasonably difficult because of the Wi-Fi and internet not being available. So the eyesights were integral on the West Coast up until the last 4 years, when now with the Wi-Fi right throughout, people just use the machines. So you all have an iPad, we all have a phone. Whenever anyone goes overseas, generally it is all done online. And that's what we're finding here from the figures that we're getting. So don't get me wrong, there's plenty to do in Mid Canterbury. That's why I wanted to come on the board, because it is a fantastic place.
Councillor Brown.
The most important thing for me when I travel anywhere is free Wi-Fi. It's the key one for me, and I can do everything on my phone, pretty much. But question for you, in the figures of dollars that come through the district, and an example, if a truck driver is driving from Nelson to Invercargill and he stops in Ashburton with his fuel card to fill up diesel, is he a tourist or what is he? Is that $200, $300 of diesel he puts in, click in for a tourist in or Ashburton?
If he pays by credit card, yes. If he pays by fuel card, no. And most trucking companies use fuel cards in most cases, but yeah. I could also, if you don't mind, just add another example to what Gary was saying. I have a 24-year-old Chinese teacher that's staying with my family right now. She's been travelling right throughout the entire country over the last 8 months, and not once has she used anything other than her device, including talking to me at home. So, it just goes to show that's what these people are doing. It's all about online investigation and also about online booking.
Bruce, just in closing, the winter report was received that talked about closing eyesights, that talked about redirecting those funds to events, and another way we could make money was promoting Mount Hutt, which I understand won the Best New Zealand Ski Field 15-16 and is up for that same title this year. However, in regards to the events, do you have any indication for us yet where you're redirecting and how you're redirecting?
Once we're through this process, that's my next duty, is to sit down with the board and we'll write a strategy and we'll present that strategy and give you a really good understanding against also that against budget as well. To my point there as well, just so you're aware, we spend about $2,000 a year with Mount Hutt, and that's it. So, it's not a huge amount of money.
Okay, so Gary, Sally, Bruce, thank you very much for coming to see us today. We will be breaking shortly for a cup of tea, and I'd like to acknowledge up back there, Rangatahi MP Andrew Falloon has joined us. Hopefully he'll be joining us for a cup of tea and then we'll be hearing from him after break. Thank you very much. But right now it is my great pleasure to invite Cindy Meadows, the Manager of People and Capability, to introduce us to the newest team members at Ashburton.